Hey everyone, give me 1 second. Oh, goodness. Okie dokie. We are live on both of my platforms. It's so dark. So, anyway, couple of announcements before we get into tonight's show. I am super excited. Um, we now have only 7 spots left for this year's Peer Unity. I am beyond stoked. I just looked at the email for Peer Unity and found out that there is another vendor, paranormal team, interested in joining us this year. So I'm super excited. I cannot wait to be fully booked. So, and that's in October. That's October 25th. So, I will be back at the Hannah House down in Indianapolis, Indiana next month on the 9th for the Paranormal Festival. I'm super excited about that too. Me and Peppy will be joining that as well. Just a lot of things planned. I have a lot of things planned for this year. I'm super stoked to get more back into the show and just getting more of a following and everything, and just be able to share my love for you of these locations with anybody and everybody, as we all know. And yeah, so let's get into it, shall we? I don't know which one we should do first. Phelps Mansion or the Longfellow Bayside Inn. I don't know which one we should do first. So I am super stoked about this, and welcome to Haunted Memoirs. Again, if you are new to either one of my platforms that I'm streaming on tonight, if you are new to this, tonight's show is called Haunted Memoirs, and I do it every Saturday except for on holiday weekends, where I do 2 different locations, haunted locations, and I go from the ground up. And I have done over 300 different locations in the United States. And I know I keep saying that I'm going to expand across the pond, and I haven't done it yet. That's only because I've been trying to get my list of locations to dwindle a little bit. And so, yeah. Give me 1 second to get everything shared out. So. Let's see here. Thank you for getting off my lap, Boots. That's much appreciated. Stay off my lap. You know what? I will just share this out later. I'll just share it out later. Will you please get off my lap or lay down? 1 of the 2. Please. Lay down. You know what? We're just going to start with the Phelps Mansion. How about that, guys? So, Anywho, I'm super excited. So the Phelps Mansion, there's actually 2 different Phelps Mansions. Upon going through my file folder for Phelps Mansion for tonight's show, I realized I had two different locations in here, but they're under the same name. So one is in Connecticut and the other one is in New York. But the one I want to talk about is in Connecticut. So it originated. Hi, Nikki. Hi, Jeremy. Thank you, Jeremy. So the Phelps Mansion is actually the original haunting in Connecticut story. Ed and Lorraine Warren did investigate this location. What they have found, nobody knows, according to my research. So, and it got a really lengthy past. I couldn't really find nothing too much on like the before and everything, because the Phelps, when they moved into the location, they were already having paranormal activity happen to them. So I couldn't find anything before they moved in. And so what had happened, and this all took place. So like the first half was built in the 19th century. So that's what I've that's not right. Okay, so it was actually built in the 1800s. So whatever happened in the 1800s, and when they started to, when he bought the mansion in the 1900s, that's when everything really started happening. But so the Phelps, like Mr. Phelps himself, when he got the house and they got in, there was a lot of little things happening, and it was mainly targeting the children. And there was said there would be two spirits that were targeting the children and the family. The Phelps went to church one day, and when they got home, like their front door was wide open, and they went inside to look and thinking that they had been broken into. Like everything, like their furniture, their clothes, everything was strewn out again all over the house. Now this is a 3-story house, guys, and so they were going through trying to clean up the best they can, and realized that nothing valuable had come up missing. And this is one of the first of the paranormal experiences started happening. And when they went in, they got everything situated. Mr. Phelps sent his children to go back to him and his wife and the children to go back to Sunday services. And then he was sitting there waiting for something to happen. And let me find it again. Oh, and then it's actually, I think it's been demolished. From what I've seen in my research, it's been demolished, and it was located on Elm Street in Stafford, Connecticut. So they ended up having a blended family. Let's just go back a little bit here. Why don't we? They had a blended family. So they had 3 children. His wife at the time had 3 children from a previous marriage, and then they had an infant when they moved into the home. And there was Anna, Henry, and another girl who was 6. And then that, I can't find the name of the youngest one, but it was 16, 11, and then 6. So they were pretty spread out, about 5 years apart. And when, him and his family moved into the mansion, everything seemed to be great. And then all of a sudden, that's when, the paranormal started happening to them. Um, like I said earlier, they went to church one morning, came back, and their whole house was like vandalized. And when they went back, Mr. Phelps sent his wife and children back to see what would happen. He ended up saying that he's seen a, goodness, where did I see it at? Okay, here it is. Sorry, guys. So, upon them going up through each level to see if the house, there was somebody hiding inside the house, they found that, um, so in one of the bedrooms, someone had spread a sheet over the bed and had placed one of Mrs. Phillips' funeral gowns, like, well, not funeral gowns, but nightgowns, on top of it. Stockings then had been placed at the bottom of it, suggest the feet and arms of the gown, and have been folded across the chest as though it was in preparation of a funeral. They restored what they could, and then they all, Mr. Phelps was like, you know what, go back to the church. And then he was in his study armed, waiting for them to return if they would have. And nothing for a few hours. And then he heard sounds of the house creaking in the wind. No doors opened or closed, no footsteps fell. Eventually, he left his hiding place and wandered around about the floor. He opened the door to the dining room and got a shocking discovery. It was empty and was now filled with a crowd of women. So, he was in his study. Decided, hey, you know what? I'm not hearing nothing. I'm going to go to the rest of the house. And what does he find in the dining room? A crowd of women. They had entered without a sound, and they stood silent and still, bowed so low that their foreheads nearly touched the floor. And they also had, they had Bibles and others. So some of them were holding Bibles. And then when they were bowed to the floor, they were in a circle in the middle of the room. And then it was before he realized that the women in the room were incredibly lifelike. They had been fashioned to the family's clothing. The dresses had been filled with rags, muffs, and other materials from around the house. So, whoever did this or whatever did this took their clothes out of the women of Mrs. Phelps, went down to this dining room, made a circle, and stuffed the clothes to make it look like they were lifelike. And who could have done it and what did it mean is what he was questioning. And then at the time of the evenings would appear without an explanation in the house. Over the months it come to these 11 women would be joined by nearly 20 more people or mummies or dummies. And then, they would appear without warning and no clue as to how they were constructed so quickly, and so secretly. And on March 10th, the family would not know that this incredible event was only beginning. And then sometime later, the events on that Sunday morning would be connected to an almost forgotten incident that had taken place a few days before. Some would suggest that Phelps that perhaps the spirits that came to the Phelps mansion came there by invitation. So in 1915, the spiritualism movement was just starting to capture the attention of America. 2 years before, in 1848, the Fox Sisters of New York had received national attention with their spirit rappings, and Americans were becoming intrigued by communication with the dead. And then March 4th, an old friend of Dr. Phelps had come to Stanford to visit. Knowing that of the minister's interest in unusual things, they began discussing the supernaturalism and the possibilities of contacting the spirit world. So Mr. Phelps was a reverend. And one thing led to another, and the two men decided to try their hand at a seance. In reply to the questions, the men reported some disorganized knocking and rapping sounds, but neither of them considered it very extraordinary. And did they summon something that night, which would come back to plague the house later? In March 10th, the seance was undoubtedly forgotten. So they had a seance a few days before all of this was going on. And then, the confusion over the vandalism of the house and the mysterious effings, that things got even worse. An umbrella jumped into the air and traveled nearly 25 feet. Forks, spoons, knives, books, pens, and assorted small objects launched from places where no one had been standing. Pillows, sheets, and blankets were pulled from beds and fluttered into the air. This continued all day long, and finally, by evening, the activity seemed to be exhausted, and the house fell silent. And then the next morning, it all started all over again. Mrs. Phelps pleaded with her husband to call someone for help, so the Phelps contacted Reverend John Mitchell, a friend and a retired minister. Mitchell would listen to the story and quickly suggested that the most obvious solution, that the maid or the elder children were playing tricks. He took the suspects away from the house and put them nearby, and the activity continued. Still suspected some natural explanation, though, until he actually saw some of the objects move for himself. He soon became convinced that the events were unexplainable. And then on the 14th of March, they took another turn. During the morning meal, a potato literally dropped from nowhere and landed on the breakfast table. And this was just the beginning. Throughout the rest of the day, Mr. and Mrs. Phelps, along with Reverend Mitchell, witnessed 46 objects appear and drop out of the air into the locked parlor. Most of the items were articles of clothing that had been somehow transported from the upstairs closets. In the weeks to come, observers, friends, and curious witnessed objects appearing and flying through the air from at the Phelps home. Most of these items would move at abnormally slow speeds, and they would touch down on the floor as it carefully placed as if it was carefully placed there. Phelps and others also claimed that to see the objects change course while in flight. There's many accusations of who was doing this, why they were doing this. But with each, Dr. Phelps invited the skeptics to see the house for themselves. He was hospitable to reporters, investigators, and even more curious seekers. And then he permitted them to come into the house and stay as long as they liked. Many of them would witness the disturbances firsthand. And after reading accounts of the hauntings in newspapers, Dr. Phelps' son, Austin, journeyed to Stanford to get to the bottom of this matter. So Dr. Phelps had three other children with somebody else, and they were all grown by the time he married Mrs. Phelps. And then his uncle, as well, a well-known doctor in Boston and Massachusetts legislator, accompanied Austin. And then Austin was a professor at Andover Theological Seminary. Neither of the men was pleased with the family's growing and notary, and neither of them had approved Dr. Phelps' marriage to his young wife either. They were sure they would discover the trickster amongst the family. So they're still saying that this wasn't paranormal related. They were saying that this was actually somebody in the family doing all of this. It's so hard to read without my light being right here. Near the first night, they heard loud pounding noises that they surmised was coming from the knocker on the front door. They took turns pulling it open and guarding the door, but each time they expected to pounce on the prankster, and they found that doorsteps would be deserted. Finally, they stood on both sides of the door. Sorry, I gotta fly in my room. Austin on the outside and his uncle on the inside. The loud knocking continued, but the source was a mystery. They were disturbed by rapping noises upstairs, and then on the second night, they were determined the noise was coming from Anna's room. The daughter with the nervous condition. The hammering seemed to be coming from the inside panel of the door. They burst into the room, thinking to catch her in the act, and she was far from the door when they entered. Austin later wrote, the young lady was in bed, covered up and out of reach of the door. We examined the inside the panel and found dents where it had been struck. And then they would depart from the house, believing that whatever phenomenon was being experienced there was genuine. So they finally realized that it was not anybody in the family playing tricks, though that it was actual supernatural hauntings going on. The outbreak continued during both a physical and psychological attack on the entire family. The nighttime hours were filled with rapping, knocking, voices, screams, and bizarre sounds, while the daytime was, objects flying through the rooms. Silverware being bent and twisted, windows broke, papers scattered, and tables and chairs danced across the floor as they were becoming coming to life. And of course, the strange eppings continued to appear. It was reported that the New Haven Journal that in a short space of time, so many figures which were constructed, it would not have been possible for a half a dozen women working steadily for several hours to have them completed their design and picture arrange them in the way that they did. Yet they happened in a short space of time, the whole house on the watch. In all, about 30 figures were constructed during this period. So, I mean, there was so much going on with the family. And still to this day, when I was doing my research for the Phelps Mansion, um, even now rereading everything that I had, found on the house, they thought they don't know what was causing everything. It was the original haunting in Connecticut. This family, day in and day out, were being driven mad with all the supernatural, with the activity going on in the home, and they couldn't prove what it was. And then later on down the road, as we became into the 19th century and everything, people were saying that they were seeing. They had moved out of the house actually, and then everything stopped. Like the kids and Mrs. Phelps went back to Massachusetts, and everything stopped. They come back, everything would start back up again. So it was all centered around Mrs. Phelps and the children, and specifically Anna. And later on down the road, as we hit the 19th century, people were saying that they were seeing who they thought was Anna coming back to the home because she had passed away. And they thought in the child spirits they were seeing looked just like Anna did when she lived at the house. So, give me 1 second here. All right, on to Longfellow's Wayside Inn. Now, I have a book on this one. I have not read the book, but I've done the research and the history on it. This is going to be a short one because I know pretty much everything already. I don't have to worry about reading. I buy the books on the haunted locations, but I don't go through it. I need to read them, yes, but they're also for cross referencing what I find online to what I find in the books. That's why I have the books, and I'm still collecting. So by the time I'm done, I will probably have over 300 books, which that's okay. I want a whole library. But with that being said, let's get into it. And it's in Massachusetts. And it's 300 years old. Let's see, when it was built. When in doubt, just go to the book. Haha. Thank you for the likes. It's born in 18. It was built in the 1800s, and um, there's my report. On Old Bot, it was in the It's also known as the Wayside Inn, and it's the in the historic district on Old Boston Post Road in Sudbury, Massachusetts, and it was placed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1973. That's a pretty cool. That's cool. Um, it it's an inn, so it did have a tavern and everything, and there it said that there is one guy, and then let me see if I can find his name. So Wayside Ghost, it's what they call him, and and it's more in New England, so it's salt does not come with its own haunting tales, are real or imagined. Where is his name? Okay, here we go. Jerusha Howe is the reputed goat Wayside Inn ghost. The inn had been built by the Howe family and was handed down through four generations. So Jerusha's brother, Lyman, or known as Squire, was the last in line to of the house to run the inn. The house innkeeping legacy ended with Lyman, since he never married or produced an heir by the time of his death in 1861. As a young woman growing up in the inn, Jerusha was known as the Belle of Sudbury, and her musical and artistic skills were renowned. She famously owned the first piano in town and put it to frequent use for visitors. Some say she still puts it to use with ghostly tunes played in the middle of the night. That's cool. And then no one really knew about Jerusha's love life, but she was engaged to an Englishman, and then it says that he sailed home to England to make arrangements for the wedding and never heard from again. So she was stood up, supposedly. And then there's speculations that there was a ship crash and he drowned at sea. Or that, like I said, just got stood up and abandoned her. Um, but then again, did he ever really exist? She never chose to marry. After all of that, she never chose to marry. She lived out her days in the inn by her brother's side, dying at the young age of 45 in 1842. And it's said that she's died of a broken heart. It said that and then now I'm not for sure if it's the same room or not, but room 9 is where was her room. So people say that she still is in that room. And then in room 10, they have reported smelling Jerusha's perfume or feeling her sweep past them on the stairs. There have been claims of being awakened by her touch or seeing her presence at the foot of the bed. Whether these nighttime occurrences are real or fright conjured up by the imagination, the room is charming and would be a thrill and pleasure to stay in. It's old, it's unique, so a lot has happened over the years, and it was secret, home to the Secret Drawer Society. Little notes, usually reporting on any wayside ghost encounters. Um, where is his name? There is one person that stood out to me. It all like his name stood out to me, like not name, but him himself stood out. Do, 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 do. But anyway, so one second, I gotta make sure I don't have any messages from anybody. Okay, so the story goes that I cannot remember his name to save my life, and I can't find it. It's the oldest operating inn in America. Let me see if I can find him in here. I know he's in this book. I just gotta find him. Where did it go? Can't find it. Oh my gosh, it's bugging me. But he was said to be walking and he had a crush on somebody that either worked or lived at the inn. And he was walking practicing poetry one day. It was wintertime, and it said that he slipped and on a patch of ice, and he ultimately passed away. So he was trying to gather up the courage to talk to this woman with the poem, like let her like go to her and read this poem to her, and he ended up passing away before he could read her the poem. So yeah, I know not very. The Wayside Inn has got a lot of history to it. It's like I said, the oldest um, operating inn in the United States, and it's just got a lot of history in it. And who knows what happened that wasn't documented over there? Just like with the Phelps Mansion, like what was going on? Like why was the family haunted? Like what happened? And now Phelps Mansion has now been since tore down, but like I guess you'll never know. Um, it's said that the Longfellows that's the last name of the people that built Longfellow's Wayside Inn. It has Henry Ford's been there. Um, just quite a few different things that happened. I think I saw that there was a seance in one of the rooms. So it's got timeless hospitality and legendary tales. And people would write like these tales and what they've encountered on little pieces of paper, and somebody took all those pieces of paper and put them into a book that now sits at the wave, like at the end. And whoever, when someone who wrote this, History Press, it looks like. So it was built by the Howe family, and Indian affairs, colonial wars, and the coming of the stagecoach, railroad, and automobiles. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow um, immortalized it in a verse with his 1863 collection, Tales of the Wayside Inn, suddenly making it a desired destination for travelers. Longfellow's romanticized description of the inn later inspired Henry Ford, that he purchased and restored the buildings, and it is surrounding 3,000 acres. John author Brian Plum, as he traverses the highways of the New England's history and discovers the stories of Longfellow's wayside inn. So, yeah. And then some of the, like, okay, so I have decided, like, on the locations that I have not really went into detail because A, I have a book on them, or B, I just didn't get around to, like, re-looking into the locations. I will redo. I will. I will redo them. Um, Over on my historian page, over on, you know, here, and or the Book of Face, I will be doing the videos, and then over on TT, you can find them too there. So, yeah. It's been a very long day for me, and I'm tired. I am. I'm really tired. But I was super excited to get the show back up and running again, and give you guys updates on everything. So, but like I said, I have 7 more spots to fill. No, wait, 8? No, 3, 7. 8 minus 2. 7, 6, 7 spots. I have to redo the layout again. So I am super stoked about that. Actually, you know what? Give me 1 second. I'll actually do this real fast. Woo! So I still got the old layout here, so I got them down. Show me the corner spot. Where is my pen? Pen, 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 pen. Pen. We'll just do this. And then we'll go here and we'll do this. That's not right. definitely. That is Memoirs. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna lose my stuff. I'm gonna lose all of my stuff, guys. Oh my gosh. Okay, hold on here. I have every single one of like our vendors. Well, not every one just yet, but I have printed off of like every vendor. Versus Country Candles. Got that one written down. Versus Creative Crafts. Yes?
Dinner?
I'm doing my show. Don't you roll your eyes at me. Yeah, you did. Anyway. Oh, that's why. That's why. You know what? We're gonna do this. I am just like Maya, get the pan wash. Can you guys not? I am doing my show, please.
Who's for Maya to get the pan wash?
Go. I will do it. Go. Sorry, guys. My kids are like, Mom, dinner. So that should be. I feel like I'm missing somebody on my list. 1, 2. What? I gotta go through and redo it all. 6 to 7 spots left. So I'm super stoked because I just got another person. I mean, if I go with a couple of the local vendors wanted 2 spots. So I no, can't do that. Anyway, I'm gonna have to redo this, and it's gonna take me a little bit, but 6 to 7 different spots. I want to say it's 6 spots until we are completely full for Para Unity. I am super happy and super stoked. Again, that's on October 25th of this year. I have so many different notes on my layout. I have now to move somebody, put somebody here, put somebody there, how many spots they want. So it's just, and then when I get like a new vendor, I will go ahead and write them down on there, just so that they're there. And then if a vendor has a specific request, like I would like a corner spot. Okay, cool. Corner spot's yours. I myself this year have 2 spots, but one of those spots are going to be saved for the surprise that I have in store for Para Unity. And sad news, guys. If you join us, and if you've joined us in the past, and you've guys seen Turtle Man, Bat, or the big tall dude, that tall Grim Reaper looking dude that we call Soul Taker, we will not be having them this year, unfortunately. I am so sorry. My ghost, as we call him, as I call him, is going to work on a new costume. So hopefully we'll have one by then. But I'm not making any promises and I'm not guaranteeing anything. So, and me and Peppy will be over at Hannah House next month on the 9th for the Paranormal Festival down there. I'm super stoked about that. Um, but I'm gonna go ahead and get off of here because, like I said, my kids are wanting dinner, and I will see you guys next week. And as always, before I let you guys go, if you guys have any requests or want to know a location, see a location down, please shoot me a message. With the location, and I will see if I have it done. Again, I do have 300 different locations done, so I will go through my binders and see which ones. So, I love you all. Thank you for joining me tonight, and then I will see you guys next week.